Where's the crookedest street in the world?
Today we're going to show you one of the one that claims to be it. Hi, welcome to Around the World with Joshua and Alyssa. This is episode 106, and glad to have you back. Sorry that we missed a week. We're kind of busy again. Anyway, so today we are going to tell you about what many claim to be the crookedest street in the world, and it is in a city that we are going to talk about for the next 5 weeks. And that city is San Francisco.
I've been there.
So here's a picture of us when we were in San Francisco. We had a convertible. It was a lot of fun. And one of the places we enjoyed driving down the most would have been Lombard Street, which claims to be the crookedest street in the world. There are actually 2 other streets that people claim are more crooked than this one. The other 2 are not really well known at all. One of them is in Iowa, and the other one is also in San Francisco. And so this one, the way it's laid out, it's like diagonal lines all the way down that are connected with some curves. The one in Iowa, it's in Burlington, Iowa. It actually snakes its way around in such a way that all the roads are parallel going down, connected with curves.
Like a switchback.
Yes. And the other one in San Francisco is like in between the 2. But this one was created in like the 1920s, and it was designed to help people get, I take that back. This one was designed because it was originally a straight road going down, and it was so steep that it was causing problems for people. So they instead made it this street that winds back and forth about 8 times over the course of 1 block. And there are homes on each side and a sidewalk with stairs that you can walk down, but it's most fun if you drive down it. It is a one-way street, and I believe in this picture there's a person in the middle of the street. Not a good idea. If you're gonna go down it, drive down it or take the stairs. Don't walk down it, because
That's dangerous.
it's so popular that a lot of other people want to drive down it, so you should not be walking on it at the same time. Anyway, it's a one-way street because back then when they first made it, vehicles weren't the sizes that they are today. And so it was a 2-way street, but now with the vehicles being larger and with it being so popular, it just would not work for it to be 2-way still. So this is when we were there at night, and another reason why it's so popular is just because there are flowers on both sides, hydrangeas, and it's just lined all the way around it. And so when you take a picture from the top, or especially the bottom, not only do you see this windy road, but you see all the beautiful flowers on either side. So again, this is taken from the top. I didn't get a picture from far back of the whole thing like you might see sometimes if you look for it online. But
so
this is from the bottom. But yeah, the one in Burlington, Iowa claims that it is the most crooked one. It's called Snake Alley, and it was designed as a shortcut from one spot to another place. It also is now a one-way street, but it is not as well known. And then the other one in San Francisco is Vermont Street, and there are so many trees around it that you cannot get a good picture of it like you can of Lombard Street, which is just flanked by flowers on either side. So that was Lombard Street. We did drive down it in our convertible, and it was a lot of fun, and maybe we'll do it again someday. But I do want to go see the other 2 streets. That way I can say I have been to the crookedest street in the world, and if people say, well, was it this one or this one, I can say yes.
All 3.
Yes.
Been to all of them.
Someday.
Okay, I have a new story today.
Okay.
So you can go get a snack.
Mm-hmm.
So my news story is called Lottie Moon, God, the one who knows my heart. And I don't know if you know this flag, but if you do, then you'll know where she's going to go someday in our story. If you don't, you should look it up and see if you can figure out which flag has these stars like this and is all red. So we're going to start our story of Lottie Moon when she was a girl in school. So here's our first page. Go with it. So Lottie kind of laughed to herself as she got up. It was really dark outside. Nobody else was awake. It was just barely a tiny bit light, and she started to take the sheets off of her bed. She took the bed sheet off, she took the fitted sheet off, and she kind of rolled them up into a ball. She held them under her arm, and she tiptoed out of her room, trying really carefully not to wake up her roommate, Carrie Ann, and make sure that she didn't wake anybody else up, because it was basically the middle of the night. But she had a great plan. Now, Lottie was 14 years old, but she was really short. She was only 4 feet 3 inches tall, so very small, but she had a really big idea, and she thought this was her best big idea of all, and it was going to be a great prank on her whole school. So Lottie was going to a boarding school, a girls' school where people will go and they'll just live there and do their classes and everything, because her dad had died, and it actually was really common at the time when she was alive to go to boarding schools, where you go and you live there and you do your school at the same time. Well, at the school that Lottie was at, they had so many rules and so many things they wanted to accomplish in the day. She felt like she had no freedom. She would have to get up at 6 o'clock, which is when the first bell would ring, and then they had a bell that would ring like on every hour, and it would tell them all these things they were supposed to do. The bell would ring for classes, the bell would ring for chapel, the bell would ring for meals, and she was just getting really tired of this bell. So her great plan was that it was April 1st, and she was going to do something about that bell. So she sneaked out of her room across the campus until she got to the attic area. She found a key and she unlocked it. She climbed up 2 ladders, and when she got to the top of 2 ladders, she was at the base of that big bell that was ringing all day long to make them go to all of these activities. And for April Fool's Day, her plan was to take the clapper, the middle piece of the bell, and to wrap her bed sheets around it. So then when somebody tried to pull on the bell to make it ring, it wouldn't make a sound because the blankets would be covering it. So she wrapped it up and she was all smiling and happy to herself. And especially she thought maybe they wouldn't have to have chapel that day. Lottie really hated chapel, and they had chapel 2 times a day. She thought maybe if I do this, we'll really get out of chapel and all those other things she didn't really want to do. So she got her bed sheets all tied up around the bell and she sneaked back down the 2 ladders, back to her room, and crawled into bed. She was like smiling to herself thinking, oh, I'm going to get all this extra sleep and I won't have to go to chapel today. And 6 o'clock came and no bell. And finally by 7 o'clock they had figured out what was going on, and then the bell rang and Lottie got out of bed and told her roommate, guess what? We didn't get up at 6. It's already 7. Happy April Fool's Day. And her roommate kind of looked at Lottie a little bit funny. And the day went on and it had everything all mixed up. Their meals were at weird times and their classes were at weird times, and they had to cancel chapel, which Lottie was really happy about. And later in the day, Lottie was talking to her roommate, and her roommate said, you know, we all know that it's you who did that, Lottie. Lottie was like, what? How did you know it was me? And Carrie said, because you're the only one who doesn't have sheets on her bed. And the principal figured that out really fast. Oh, well, it doesn't really matter, said Lottie. I didn't really want to go to chapel anyways, and at least we got out of that really boring part of the day. And I'm not really interested in hearing more about God or being a Christian or anything like that. So after Lottie finished going to school here at Hollins Institute, she went back to her home in Virginia, and then she went to another place where she could keep studying because she really liked to study and she really loved to read a lot. So she went to another school to keep studying, and she was a really good student. She learned a lot, she learned really fast, and she already had worked on learning 4 different languages. She was just really good at learning things. One day at dinner at Lottie's new school, a girl sat down and she said, oh, what's your name? And Lottie said, well, my name is Lottie D. Moon. And the girl said, oh, well, What does the D stand for? And Lottie responded back really fast. The D stands for devil, because I'm not at all interested in the church. I've got way better things to do. And she stomped off. Do you think God could use somebody like Lottie with an attitude like that, and who's always into doing tricks and causing problems for people? You're going to have to come back next week to find out.
All right. We'll have to see what happens.
That was a good trick, though.
That was a good trick. Okay. Today's missionary that we are going to highlight is the missionary family that I am friends with. Well, we are friends with. Going to Great Britain, and that is Trevor and Amelia Galbraith. And we told you about them a while ago. It's been quite a while now. And they are on pre-field ministry or deputation and raising support to go to Great Britain. And if you remember, Trevor actually grew up as on the field over there in the United Kingdom. His parents were missionaries there. And so now he is preparing to go back there with his family and do the same thing. So I asked them how their pre-field ministry has been going, and they said that it has been both a positive and challenging time. They've made a lot of good friends. They've had a lot of cool adventures. The traveling has grown old, and I would not doubt that for a moment because I don't like driving, and that's a lot of driving. And they are all very tired and eager to be done. However, this has been a time in which God has demonstrated his faithfulness and taught them to trust in him. The past few months have been a little slower for them in terms of traveling and visiting churches, but the next 2 months are full, and they'll be very busy with meetings and VBS. They are no longer booking more meetings because they hope to be finished very soon.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, and we'll explain why in a moment. I asked them if they had any unique or memorable experiences from this last year, and they said that in January they had a couple meetings in New York, and during the first of these they spent the night with a couple who raised sheep. And that night 2 lambs were born in their barn, and they decided to name them after the Galbraith's daughters.
Aww.
So the next day Evie and Vera got to meet their namesake lambs, hold them, and feed them.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yep.
So fun.
And there they are feeding those 2 little lambs. So cool. At the end of November, they were in the process of moving out of a missionary house, and they were packing and getting everything in their van and getting ready to head to Ohio, or from Ohio to Iowa. And as Trevor was loading a heavy box, he pulled a muscle in his back.
Oh.
And so he said it was bad enough that he couldn't walk or even stand.
Yikes.
And it was so bad that just getting into the passenger seat was hard. And so Amelia drove. She loaded the rest of the things. She got the kids ready. She finished cleaning the house and then drove most of the way. So that was a challenging time for them, but God gave them good attitudes, and thankfully his back healed up pretty quickly. The most exciting thing that they've done in the past year was a survey trip to Britain. They got to spend 3 weeks exploring the country, meeting local pastors, and experiencing ministry and spending time with family. Tim and Autumn Galbraith, Tim would be his brother, who are also going to be part of their team while they were there, spent the time with them, and he says it was a fruitful time of bonding as God unified their vision for life and ministry in Britain. And so there's a picture of them. And I went to school with all of them, so that's kind of fun to see them and to hear about their plans for serving together there in Great Britain. I asked about their current support level and when they anticipate finally getting to move there. And this is why they are almost done visiting churches and why they're not scheduling anyone else. He says they are currently at 87%.
Woo-hoo! They're so close.
Yeah. And so they anticipate arriving in Britain in August. So that is 3 months away. That is really soon. I asked for praises and prayer requests, and the biggest thing right now is the government paperwork that they're filling out. Sounds like another missionary we looked at recently, the Minnicks, going to Australia. They've applied for Vera's dual citizenship and are waiting for the results of that. They are in the midst of applying for... Now, I said Evie earlier. It might be Evie. I guess I don't know the correct pronunciation. But they're waiting for her passport and for Amelia's visa. And after Vera's citizenship is approved, they will apply for her British passport and then renew Trevor's passport. So that's a lot of stuff to work through. And trying to get it all in the right order. So there's a lot for them to do this summer before they can leave and arrive in Britain in August. So they said, please pray that everything gets done quickly. So it's a praise that they are at 87% support and that they are getting things ready to move out there, but also a prayer request that they would get it all done in time, that everything would go smoothly and come through the way they needed to, and that they would be able to proceed just as they hope.
That's exciting. They're so close to getting ready to go.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll have to come back next week to hear another part about San Francisco, another person serving around the world, and some more story.
Yep. See you later.
Bye.